Quick update, my YouTube channel was hacked and they uploaded like a bunch of hacking videos and everything. I'm so sorry if you clicked on any of those. But we got my channel back and let's roll the video.
Clair obscur, trouble de rature, trouvera effet. Clair obscur, bordé aux peintures, trouvera sans elle. Clair obscur, trouble de rature, trouvera effet. Clair obscur, bordé aux peintures, trouvera sans elle. Oh, clair obscur, trouble rature, clair obscur.
Clair Obscur. Ever wanted to go to France, but you were too scared of all the random encounters with mimes? Me either. I've been gone for a while, and it's all because of this suction this game had on my soul. Like, okay, maybe I lied, but guess what? I'm back. I've just been so busy staring at spreadsheets for 8 hours a day, every day. This adventure, I'm not even calling this a game anymore, because it's more than that to me now. It is a life-changing story that uses the video game medium to the maximum. And no, I'm not talking about the gameplay that everyone is raving over, even though multiple turn-based RPGs have done this before. I've never dove into a world as creative as this, as jaw-dropping, drop-dead gorgeous like scenery in the atmosphere. This story will rip your heart out of your chest and stomp on it and then offer you glue to put it back together. I mean this in a positive light. I teared up several times during this game, with a soundtrack that weeps with you as you listen to the damn near perfect voice acting and the music syncing to the way the conversations are handled. It felt like I was watching a movie with how hard the visuals go for everything. And just so you remember, this isn't a AAA game, and it looks this good. This experience was made by Sandfall Interactive, a brand new studio whose first game is this. The title literally translates to light and dark, and also comes from the word chiaroscuro. This is a art technique that is used throughout the game, literally and narratively. This and grief are used as the main theme of the game that is echoed throughout. Everything in this game is damn near 10 out of 10. Due to how this game is set up, I will keep this spoiler free for 1/3 and semi-spoiler filled for the middle section, and then the final section with unhinged everything. If you want to go into this blind, which I honestly strongly recommend you do, and don't watch this video, or just come back later when you finish the game, or, play a little bit, Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. This game blew up out of nowhere, and the only thing I knew about it before I even started playing the game was that they are French and there's an evil tree. That's all I got. But going into it blind was the best decision I've ever made for any story I've ever read, watched, or played. Maybe I should stop glazing the game, but it deserves it. So, let's start off with the story for Act 1. Ever feel like us humans have a short lifespan? What if we died at age 33 and our age kept dwindling for generations? This is what the people of Lumiere have to deal with, having a celebration of life for everyone's last breath called the Gommage. These people wear flowers and stare off into sunset until they Thanos snap away. The reason the age of the humans is dwindling is because of a big old Titan woman that is the goddess of the 19th century France paints a number on a fucking tree. Imagine dying because of a tree and you didn't run into it. If I were in this world, I'd tank that shit. We follow Gustave and his apprentice he looks after named Maëlle, who for some reason is faster than the speed of sound. No, seriously, she's faster than me at my prime. Granted, I was the slowest on my cross-country team. I had to run with a granola bar in my hand because of my low blood sugar. Following Maëlle, we see our ex-wife Sophie, whose last day is today, and it's been years since Gustave has seen her. Their romantic chemistry really felt like some true romance story writing. The mannerisms and the riz they had was super entertaining to watch, even for the short period we get to know her. Two kids come up to Gustave to give him a uniform with a 33 on it. Gustave puts it on as Sophie's last wish. Silence fills the air. The eerie feeling you know something is going to happen and you are just sitting there aimlessly waiting for it. The gommage happens and the ex-couple part ways. Sophie is no more. I knew this woman for 5 minutes and I already cried once. In the last year of their life, some people take it upon themselves to band together and start an expedition into the world of the unknown in order to... Sorry, that was not professional. In order to stop the painters. Gustave and many other friends such as Lune, Tristan, Bastien, and Ciel, Alan, and a few others. Gustave finds Maëlle going even though she has more than 10 years left. She wants a life outside of the walls, not Aaron Yeager. We see Emma, our sister who has been a big help in raising Maëlle, whose parents died from the gommage. Emma doesn't want us to go and tries to convince us otherwise, but Gustave responds in a mature way because our protagonist isn't a kid or an angsty teen. He's a fully grown man in his 30s. This, to me, was a big breath of fresh air, especially for the genre of gameplay. The crew has one last party drinking and eating their bellies full until it's time to set sail. Setting sail with the crew, we arrive at this dark, ominous island where I can already feel something bad is about to happen. An old man appears. Of course this generation hasn't seen anyone with gray hair before, since the age cap is so low. They are intrigued, so Alan asks him some questions, and in return, the old man gives him head. This old man goes on a rampage, killing multiple expeditioners, our main crew, fighting them for their lives, doing the Joestar secret family technique as well, running away from all the chaos. These monsters take them on, making a massacre of this island, murdering a lot of Gustave's crew, crewmen such as Bastien and Tristan. Gustave is separated from Maëlle, and his mission is to find her amidst this massacre. Gustave passes out and ends up in a weird forest, alone. And so our journey begins, alone. Right here is the end of the prologue. Act 1 begins. Walking through and killing monsters named Neverons. Making through the forest, you see piles and piles of corpses of your fellow expeditioners. And the other generation expeditioners. Where we find notes left for those that come after. A big theme in this game being legacy. The environmental storytelling of the corpses leading up to a breakdown of Gustave as he lays down on the ground near the victims. He grabs his gun and holds it to his head. I'm not gonna make that joke! At this moment, we are stopped by a survivor. It's Lune, the woman of every foot fetish maniac's dreams. She joins our party, and we go through a couple dungeons and meet our first main boss. It was a blast. These bosses are some of the most fun I've had in an RPG due to the gameplay system, which I'll go over later. After making it out of the unknown forest, we see a message from an expeditioner written on a rock. Gustave going with his feelings, believing the sign outright, but Lune is skeptical, thinking that the expeditioner didn't follow protocol in the sign their name. Gustave being the more reasonable one to make the decision that protocol doesn't matter due to how much of their team was wiped out, there may be no one left. This results in them having conflict and arguing, which I like a lot because you don't see that much with party members. They are usually just yes men a lot of the time and just agree with everything you do. Following Gustav's advice, we end up underwater and at a mansion where we find Maëlle in a room with a Nevron who has been taking care of her for the time being. Earlier, we learned that there was some non-hostile Nevrons in the world. Gustav, who you think is about to kill the Nevron, accepts him as he helped keep Maëlle safe. Maëlle is back in the party after a couple hours of Gustav's worrying. It finally paid off. We meet a little critter called a Gestrel who looks like a paintbrush and they speak French. They are like a myth in this world. The party knows of the tales, but they have never seen one in person. They are adorable. This one in particular, named Noko, provides shops for us. You'll see them everywhere after this area. And I mean everywhere, because we're about to head to the Gestrel village. Under the sea, we meet a big boy Nevron, who appears after we mess with his flower. As you can see, they are not all inherently just bloodlust monsters. Here's where we see they do have emotion. Seems like they are just ghosts that are longing for a purpose. Because his obsession with the flower has to have some significance. But we gotta beat his ass anyway. Poor big boy. We're on our way to the Gestrel village to participate in a tournament where we hear of another survivor of the expedition is staying. We meet Ciel, our tatted crystal girl of the party, and she joins us. We are now crowned champion of the Gestrels according to this thick muscle mommy paintbrush. She speaks of a legendary Esquier, a powerful being that can be a big help for us traveling around the world. We are told the password by her, and we are on our way. Back at camp, we switch the perspective of Maëlle. Some shadowy figure comes up to us. A girl with a masked face and white hair gets close to us, and then the old man appears and says the lines, "It's her fault, and she doesn't even know it." And that will make things worse for everyone. Ominous as fuck. I literally had to sit up out of my chair after hearing that. Upon reaching the cave Esquier resides in, a guard needs us to provide a password, which we were given earlier.
Get out of my way!
Jeez, tu pochino va, parino.
No. It's the password.
Rico femicola, gor granda bare bombino, passwordito. Gomiku rapito sava.
We are introduced to Esquier, the biggest lovable boy. Dude, he's gotta be one of the funniest voice directions I've heard in a minute.
We really need to cross the sea. Would you please help us?
There's a lot of you to carry. I'm strong, but I'm not that strong. I will need Flory.
Who's Flory?
We then have Francois, his neighbor, but also a loser hermit. He's a cranky little bastard. As Esquier joins her crew, we need to venture over the cliffs where one of Esquier's rocks are, which is the key to his powerful abilities like swim and fly. He's basically the airship for this game, like in every Final Fantasy. Man, what a journey! For only like 1/3 of the game, it's been smooth sailing and a fun adventure so far, with hints of lore to build up the world while we find more journals from previous expeditions that leads us to providing more info on the Nevrons in Gustav's journal for those that come after. So far, that's all I can say for Act 1. We'll get into more detail in Act 2 with a mid-spoiler section of the video. The game is set up to have an insane amount of plot details that I literally cannot talk about till later. So, let's talk about the gameplay. To start this off, this is a turn-based game, which already has people skeptical. As a valid enjoyer of the turn-based genre, I would say this is the most active the combat can get in a turn-based setting. Instead of just waiting for an enemy to attack you and having to keep your allies' health up, you have the opportunity to dodge or parry when you are attacked, which always means it always keeps you on your toes. Don't get on your phone after your turns are over because you will get fucked. You'll want to dodge your enemy's attacks at first until you learn the patterns, then you can start parrying. And if you parry the whole combo, you can counterattack them. This becomes damn near mandatory in later bosses. In battle, you have your basic attributes to any turn-based game, which we got attack, which is your basic attack, items, using items which you only get so much of that are replenished when you rest at a checkpoint. I went through half the game without knowing this, by the way, so I rarely used items in Act 1. And that felt like a good Nuzlocke challenge, so I recommend it. Skills. You use skills that you learn from your skill tree that require AP, which are action points, that you get from doing all sorts of stuff, so no mana or MP limitations. It's very easy to get AP using gear called Pictos, which we will go over later. These skills have QTEs which can affect your damage if you suck or if you land them. They are very easy to land other than a couple of them. Adding more rhythm elements makes the combat very engaging, like Yakuza or Earthbound series. Aim. You can literally turn your weapon into a gun, aim, and shoot similar to Persona 5, but you can actually aim with your sticks, which is used a lot for hitting weak points. Gradient attack. This is just your ultimate. You'll get it later on. I can't really talk about it now. The party system allows up to 3 playable members at a time, which most games are doing now, and I think I like the 3-member system more than 4, since it allows for you to really think about what members you need to have for your coordinations. Of course, there's turn-based necessities like elemental damages like burn or freeze, but it has a few new cool status effects as well, like bound, which literally makes you so you can only parry, something only this game would be able to do because of the combat system. As you can see, this game is heavily inspired by Final Fantasy, being some of the status effects have the same name like Shell and Cursed, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe is named the same thing in other franchises. Kinda similar to Pokemon, the turn order is based on your agility stat, since misses are not a factor. You cannot miss. Every single character plays different from each other, which is always a breath of fresh air. You may have a magic user who gains stains, which can be used to make your attacks more powerful and or build up to drop a fucking nuke 14 times. Or someone who switches stances depending on what move you use in order to tank or literally be a glass cannon. As well as a character that gains ranks in order to do more damage, a lot like Devil May Cry. I had a lot of fun playing around with different strategies and even trying to solo some areas just because it's so fun. I would go through everyone's playstyles, but I really don't want to spoil them here. There's an attributes and skill tree. When you level up, you get attributes that can apply to your character, and this is your only way of your stats changing, so use them carefully. If you have a weapon to scale with 2 to 3 certain stats you want to focus on, I would prioritize that since it takes scales from the other attributes when you level them up, similar to Souls games. Builds are where the fun of the customization comes in. If you have a dog shit build, you're probably going to get fucked in the ass or just take an absolute eternity to finish some of these bosses. It's fairly easy to come up with a good build, which is a positive and a negative, because the game can be broken so fast. And when you level up, you get skill tree points. The skill tree is somewhat small, but very concise, with most, if not all, abilities being useful. Pictos. Now here's where building your character gets fun. As you explore, you find these things called Pictos, which are like perks you can put on your character's stats that also have effect such as +1 AP every time you parry. With these Pictos, you can set the stage for builds like pure defense tank build with 7,000 defense or a glass cannon critical hit build with 100% luck. You want to use the Pictos that give the best numbers on these stats, but also try to use one that makes the ability match your build. Luminas are mini perks that you can equip, and after a certain time of using them, you learn them similar to how you would learn summon abilities when you equip them in Final Fantasy VI. They are basically Pictos that don't give you the character stats, and instead just give you the buffs and debuffs of the ability. Like applying burn to your gun, or having an ability to do 50% or 200% damage, giving you a double-edged sword in combat. And you can increase the amount of Luminas you can equip on each character. I like to have them all evened out so all the characters are on the same page. My personal favorite build was making Gustav and Mael do insane amount of damage the lower their health is. So I would always have them on low health or 1 health, and it would give me such an adrenaline spike because if I get hit once, I'm dead. So this caused me to be extra careful with them. If I had to pick one nitpick negative, so far, it would be the menus. They are downright horrendous and so hard to navigate. I've seen a couple casual gamers really have a hard time navigating the menus, but so far that's really my only complaint. But God, when you get to the Pictos menu, you can sort it by the stat buffs and everything on your base stats, but you can't sort it to what it does for your skills. I'd like to be able to organize all the burn luminas and all of the mark luminas so I can just pick those if I want to do a mark or burn build. Get it? Pictos. Weapons. Weapons can be upgraded at the shop via stones you collect from around the world with exploring the dungeons. Think of smithing stones from Elden Ring. That's basically what they are. These weapons have 3 abilities for each 5 levels in order to differentiate them. Like a weapon for Mael that starts her in Virtuous Stance, or a weapon that gives Lune stains for her kit just by free aiming. Speaking of overworld, this game brought back the SNES staple, where it's a big world map instead of an open world, with little zones made for the dungeons. This completely took me by surprise. The game being made like this allows for concise exploring without a bunch of void of nothingness in the world, like a shitty Ubisoft game. This world is drop dead gorgeous, and it makes me really hope for some kind of Final Fantasy VIII remake, because I would love to see that game in HD. The open world has many side areas that you can explore, like optional dungeons and weird side quests. You've heard of the Siren Heads and Pyramid Heads, and you've also heard of the Paintbrush Heads. And you can find many fun games with these guys, like running on a log and falling because the movement is janky as fuck. The overworld is huge, and there's lots of side content to do after the game, and not needless either. It's really important to the story and the characters, and just a downright blast to do. Next, let's talk about the dungeons. Really nothing but positive. Some of the shortest dungeons you will ever play, but I mean this as a good thing. None of them overstay their welcome, and all of them offer tons of exploration, and they aren't too open to where you won't usually get lost. Well, sometimes you might. Consider there is no map when walking, which would have helped in one particular dungeon where I ran in circles for like 30 minutes. There's a lot of loot to go around, and these cool locked chests where you have to find all the locks to shoot. It took me like 3 minutes to figure it out, but these became really fun main puzzles. The music is amazing too. Don't worry, we will talk about the music a lot later. The enemies are on the overworld, so no random encounters. Heck, you can even sprint past most of them, but the game might punish you for the next boss. And you're gonna get your ass whooped. Speaking of the bosses, if you want to talk about RPGs that have nailed the art form and epicness of what a boss fight is, it's FromSoft. And it feels like Sandfall definitely took notes on how to make a damn near every single boss memorable. With the music, the atmosphere, and the build-up of the cutscenes showing off how fucking cool they are, man. I usually don't remember everything in a boss, but after playing this game, I do now. These bosses can be both difficult and easy, just depending on your playstyle and parrying, of course. The amount of I just spat into the mic, I'm so sorry. I never got to a boss and had to grind to beat them. Sure, it made it a little longer than it was supposed to be, but I actually liked that aspect. It made it undoubtedly rad, like a hermit crab using a skull as a shell. Every single main fight felt like a spectacle-filled final boss fight. It was fucking awesome. Let's talk about the characters. Gustav. We first see him chucking rocks at the monolith, a core character quirk he does to symbolize sending friends and loved ones on a new journey, or allowing them to move on and forge their own path. He's dead set on providing as much information on the painters as possible for not just his legacy, but Lumiere's in total. His quote of those that come after embodies him with the way he writes for his future generation every night. What a goat. Truly the light of this story. After his suicide attempt, his eyes were completely open and tunnel visioned for hope. He's always our group leader and looking out over the others, giving people chances instead of being hateful and hating every Nevron after his team was wiped out, which he definitely could have gone down that route. Well, only Nevrons that are harmless, as he tries to kill Globu, our big boy. His bond with Mael runs deep. Gustav may be overprotective in your eyes, but you gotta remember, Mael isn't even 17 yet. She still needs to respect her elders. So Gustav makes Mael promise to stay out of danger, especially when it comes to the old man. His relationship with Sophie was sad to see, but logical once we were revealed why they split years ago. Sophie didn't want kids, but Gustav did, so it makes sense why they would part. Charlie Cox's voice acting is absolutely phenomenal. Such a talented actor. I love that Gustav is always acting on feelings rather than logic.
I am not letting Mael die out here. I'm taking her home.
Mael, our apprentice character whose guardian is Gustav. Without him, she wouldn't get very far, I think, because she still has much to learn about this world and combat. She starts to suss me out because of the scenes with the old man, but I definitely don't believe she's evil. More like she is maybe being manipulated or something, like her ancestors trapped in her or some real anime shit. Her rebellious attitude makes sense for her age and sheltered childhood until Gustav could take care of her. Their sibling relationship shows in the subtle way they share their competition with throwing rocks at the monolith. Jennifer English does a really good job selling the worry of this somewhat lost kid who hasn't found her purpose yet. The weight of her voice really sells some of the scenes.
It's okay. It's okay.
I was worried.
Made it.
Lune, you think she's a bitch? I think she's attractive. We are not the same. Jokes aside, she's stuck on the idea of protocol and only able to think with facts and survivability. Lune, without a doubt, is the best debater in the group when there's an argument. She's always overall winning with lots of counterpoints, but feelings always win in the end. Even if she mainly acts on logic, she still tries to lighten the mood with her guitar playing and the banter of the myths of the world like the Gestrels. I think it's really funny she doesn't wear shoes just because she can fly, but then walks on the ground anyway. Nasty motherfucker. Literally every single voice actor is amazing in this game. She really sounds cold and calculated, with a soft undertone.
Or the oath. When one falls, we continue.
Yes, I know.
When one falls. When one falls. Not if. When.
CL, we really don't get much of her character yet because she's introduced so late into the act. Besides, she's friends with Lune. But I do get the feeling that she's the type to hide her feelings and always put on a mask. Maybe that's just the way she is, but her smile always seems fake. Old man. While we don't know much about him, I made a section just for him because of how interesting he is and such a striking design. Aura farming with a cane is badass. It's clear he's not super evil and he has a purpose. You can tell that he's trying to protect something. I'm only going to be talking about the music leading up to the end of Act 1 because some of the songs I want to talk about have subtle spoilers in them, especially the titles. Let's get this straight. You mean to tell me this incredibly unique soundtrack that bleeds the identity of this game? This man, Lorian Tester, has never worked on an OST before, and this is his first work. And he's already in talks as one of the best composers in video game history. What a goat. He was found on a music forum that the director and the composer never even visited before. He had one track on SoundCloud, and he was just like, yeah, you're hired. What an incredible story. This OST literally sounds like he put his tears in his pen, while also fluctuating to mime and disco bangers, and then getting together a choir from the Middle Ages with the crunchiest instruments I have ever heard, layered over with some crazy piano clusters and a plucky guitar style. Ah man, this is literally a peak soundtrack. Like, I haven't heard many that can top this. Let's start with this iconic track. Gustave's theme takes the motif from Lumiere, the first track in the game, but with more piano and violin added orchestra. It sounds like it's making Gustave a character on a stage, playing a role, that role being the leader for the surviving expeditioners. It sounds like it's desperately trying to make sense out of the world they live in. And the motif from Lumiere sounds like a response from the paintress saying, "You were put here for a reason." This version of Lumiere is once again the same motif, but different enough to not sound anything alike it. The same song, but instead, this is the version we hear after we almost kill ourselves. Absolute banger. Lune is probably one of the most unique songs on the track list. A song for Lune, a beautiful track that describes Lune as the high-strung tactics woman for the group, the one that follows all the rules, takes pride in the mission, and refuses to take breaks, and also the pain of forgetting. The lyrics are translated in a Spanish-French sublanguage known as Oetan.
De création, créature de ton imagination. Demi-lune à demi-mot, murmurant et tantôt manteau, clair obscur de la nuit, ta sagesse éclaire.
The battle theme for Flying Waters. Don't often hear something that sounds upbeat without it being upbeat, but that's exactly what this track is, submerged in water, with Alice's vocals all over. Now this right here is a club banger, though it does not fit with this boss battle at all. It literally sounds like he's about to dork on the beat. Really don't have much to say on this one besides this is what I would hear partying with my friends in a pool in like 2017, senior year of my high school. So nostalgic. Tester does not miss. This is a merchant boss battle, and it has one of the hardest guitar solos in the game. Man, these vocals are also putting me in a trance. This thick ass paintbrush woman has a victory theme to play that you don't hear very long because you will get fucked up by her thighs literally frame 1 of starting this battle because you're stupid. A beautiful piece with a nice violin piece that sounds gut-wrenching, which fits the message of this song, describing the grief of what CL is mourning right now on the inside, because she hardly shows it and usually wears a persona.
Ton chagrin annuel.
A song about battling an immovable rock should not go this hard. This song literally only plays once, which is wild to me. The techno in the background and heavy hitting dun bass throughout the track is a bop. Lights of the Past is a song that people will gloss over, but it really hits hard for me because it was super soothing when I was playing too long at 3 a.m. I would get tired and listen to this song in my headphones while sleeping and hear it in my dreams. A beautiful track. The second half especially put me in some crazy half-asleep dreams. If there's one song that gives me near vibes, it's this one. Alice's vocals are mesmerizing. Lampmaster is one of the most unique tracks in the game, with a horrifying violin that carries the song, with a strange xylophone, I believe, in the background. It has some chilling vocals spread throughout the track. I do wish it had more bass for a boss battle, but I guess that's just the charm. So that's all I can talk about for Act 1. I know, that's all I can talk about. We're already at 40 fucking minutes. I didn't talk about the end of Act 1 here because it has an insanely big spoiler. Instead, I'll talk about it in the midsection, which I'm telling you right now, if you don't want to be spoiled on one of the most climactic parts of the game, I strongly advise you to click off this video and come back to it later. You have been warned. Again. Like, especially if you haven't even picked up the game yet. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the end of Act 1 and start on Act 2. The final boss of Act 1 is none other than Wild Mike. If you don't know who that is, you're too young. Anyways, after whooping this dude's ass, we get our stone for SKA, and we are greeted with excitement. It's time to cross the sea. Gustave and Maëlle want to throw a rock to judge how far they came on this journey. I love this moment. Looking around for a rock, we are about to jump on Eskier's back, but then we hear a familiar sound. The cane echoing in the distance. As Gustave is looking for the perfect rock, as he approaches Maëlle to start his throw, he is then shot by what looks like to be Kizaru's light beam. Some strange power we are still unfamiliar with. I was like, yeah, I'd tank that, but then I forget that we're up against Medicaid. We then fight Medicaid, and we can't even scratch the guy. Instead, we get pitied, and the guy doesn't even attack us. We power up our lightning arm and finish the fight. Nothing has hurt him. Our arm destroyed. We are only thinking about protecting Maëlle and future generations. We accomplished saving Maëlle, but the situation is finalized. It's time to go home. We pick up our sword and run and swing for one final attempt just to get stabbed through the chest, leaving a donut. Our knees grow weak and drop to the ground as we plummet in the light and our eyes go bleak. Gustave is now gone, but with accomplishing his mission for those that come after. My jaw was through the floor. The character that had death flags for sure, but to kill off the MC this early takes some fucking titanium nuts to do. That is insane. No wonder it only took Charlie Cox 4 hours to record his lines. There's gotta be a way to get him back. There's just gotta be. But that's theories for the future, something that Gustave really put his life into. Medicaid looks at Maëlle and tells her, "You may not understand now, but this is a kindness, not a cruelty." This shit made me think that Gustave was somehow plotting some shit, but there's absolutely no way. He's one of the most genuine characters in the story, if not the most genuine. Maëlle is then pushed out of her body. Her soul takes over, hearing voices like, "My sweet child, you should have stayed home." We are then greeted with another slightly older, but looks to be 30-year-old man who clashes with Medicaid. Medicaid then spouts some lore that the 30-year-old man walked away and needs to stay out of this. The 30-year-old man then rebuttals with, "You've lived a lifetime. Go touch grass." I wish he actually said that. Medicaid says he wants his family back. 30-year-old man then points to the creepy white-haired girl on the cliff, the one we saw in Maëlle's dream, saying that was his family. The 30-year-old man then tells Maëlle to get back to her friends and he'll handle things. That concludes Act 1. As we get back to camp, mourning the loss of our captain and the man that embodied this journey, we are at a loss of words. Esquier is comforting Maëlle by letting her hug him. Lune and Ciel sit down and talk, mentioning that they only ever all get together when it's time to grieve. Just like the mourning of the loss of their own family from the Gamage back in Lumiere. Greeted with a surprise, the man who saved us came with Gustave's arm to give to the party. He tosses it to Lune and starts spouting directions to get to the paintress. They ask him all sorts of questions like how he's alive being from Expedition Zero. He says the paintress doesn't affect some of them anymore and they stopped aging, and then states that the old man was named Renoir and he was the captain of Expedition Zero. He states the new goal of the expedition is to kill the painters in order to save everyone and to erase Renoir, who believes the painters gave him immortality as a gift. The man then lends them aid by joining the crew, putting his faith in them that the party can finally put an end to this madness. We are then finally introduced to his name. His name? Verso. Verso meaning back in French, and also the other side of something. So this has me theorizing that this is somehow the backside of Gustave. And no, I'm not talking about Gustave's ass, since they look kinda similar, but not really. This is a crazy turning point because Verso is now the main character of the game. He took all of Gustave's gear and abilities and even has all the abilities that Gustave was supposed to have that were locked. So I think he's gotta be connected to Gustave somehow. Our first part of the mission is we must tread through the battleground where many expeditioners faltered in order to cross the mountains. Having Gustave's arm in hand as well, Verso suggests a great place we can lay him to rest. Maëlle is scared and tainted, all the death that keeps happening around her. Hundreds and thousands of dead expeditioner bodies absolutely everywhere. She's losing it. She has a breakdown and starts questioning everyone, holding back their tears at the sight of Gustave's death. She questions Verso on how he can keep going when he spent the last 100 years burying all the people around him. Ciel calms her and reminds her of the vow of the expeditioners. When one falls. That's when we are interrupted by an aura farmer Zorro who strikes us into the depths of a bridge surrounded by pools of blood from the past expeditioners, but we must fight. Holy shit, this boss battle was so fucking epic, dude. I'll talk about it more when the music comes up, but man. We make it out alive to the spot Verso mentioned, a beautiful fall tree accompanied by a peaceful wind. We also see other graves with Expedition Zero armbands on them. This must be where Verso buried his comrades. Maëlle walks up to the tree and puts Gustave's arm down, and there's a mini funeral for our boy Gustave. The line that Maëlle says, "We couldn't tell if you were my brother or my father, but to me, you were both." That line alone in this scene left a final tear in my eye, not to mention the puddle that has filled my room after listening to this entire funeral. Rest in peace, the Hope. Verso mentions we need to cross through Old Lumiere to weaken the paintress by destroying her heart. The gang has heard of Old Lumiere, but thought it was a myth, and to hear it's true blew their minds. Lumiere was part of a bigger city that was ripped apart after the fracture. We see more interactions with Verso and the gang, and they're really starting to lighten up with him and accept him as part of the group. Like Maëlle giving him Gustave's old armband. There's just gotta be a connection, dude. It's now time to set on for Old Lumiere. But first we need to pick up one of Verso's bros. And when I mean bro, I mean these guys are the best of friends. So much that he taught this guy, who is a gestural by the way, English so he could speak fluently with everyone. He gives off chill dad vibes. Well, that's what he is, because Noko, our little guide that we met back in Flying Waters, is actually his son. I wish there was a few more scenes with Noko, because before this reveal, I honestly forgot he was here, and I don't think I even mentioned we picked him up under the sea. But Noko provides for some of the comic relief for the group, but he's not a fully comic relief character. He's still very serious, but he's just got a lot of humorous scenes. Convincing him to join us was literally just telling him, oh, there's gonna be a lot of fights by the way. I was like, oh, okay. My boy is a shonen anime fight junkie. But he did refuse to join the gang the first time because of what happened in the past of old Lumiere. Verso then points at Mael and says, "Don't you recognize her? We have a shot," giving more breadcrumbs to unraveling this mystery going on with Mael. What role does she play? A monster invades and we clear it. After that, a new race that we're not familiar with comes out. These guys are known as Grandis. They're like owl-looking big boy things. I don't know how to explain them, but they're really cool, and they seem to be very artful and just know a lot about fashion and poetry. These guys are a segue to a second village for the game, a nice breather, and they hold a few side quests that you can do later on. With our new gang, we arrive. I can tell why we had to migrate. This place is in literal pieces. This was caused by the fracture, the natural disaster we keep hearing about. And I'm not gonna lie, I think I forgot to mention it throughout the whole story. We meet with a door that needs to be beaten down, or so Minoko thinks. So he transforms and causes a fucking earthquake, splitting the party up. Kinda weird way of splitting them up, but it was hilarious. Because Minoko was just like, I was just trying to show off. Verso and Mael are split up into a group, battling through. Mael is having fun and tells Verso that they are a great team, but Verso is nowhere to be found. Why is he so shady? Me still thinking he's some kind of hidden personality of Gustav. I have been questioning his motives to this very point. We see a giant corpse of this humongous looking Nevron thing with a giant sword lunged through it. This is some environmental storytelling that I'm dying to hear about, and I hope it's related to Versos. Mael alone sees another version of the manor we keep seeing throughout the world and unthinkably goes towards it, opening the door, seeing the painters face to face. Verso feels betrayed, saying, "I knew you would open the door for her." The white-haired girl following after the paintress, and Renoir in the flesh here and ready to battle. Verso and Renoir squabble about family, giving us more breadcrumbs to fuel this mystery. It's here that we get a bombshell that Renoir is Verso's father, and that Verso is withholding lots of key information. It's time to fight Renoir as a team. The gang shows up to give us aid. After beating him, or at least scratching him, Renoir does the unthinkable and strikes Noko down, killing him instantly. Minoko is shooken. Time stops. Zawardo. Mael is having another vision as Renoir and Verso strike each other. The white-haired girl, now named Alicia, communicates with Mael, and then Renoir and Alicia escape. So much has happened, but so little has been explained. But I'm starting to piece some stuff together. After an insane battle, we head back to camp. Minoko in his grief. But he states that Gestrels can never die. They can actually be revived. But now is not the time. Back at camp, after that insane bombshell, the crew is losing trust in Verso, but he keeps going as nothing happens. Instead, it's time for Plan B. Use a weapon to pierce the monolith and take out the paintress directly. Verso mentions there's these two guardians guarding the veil of the paintress, and after taking them out, it forms a key that can pierce the veil. The accents are on two islands near the veil, so let's head there. We arrive at Visages, or Visages, I'm not sure how to say it. This place is creepy as hell. Masks everywhere, feeling like they're a peeping Tom on you in the shower. We are greeted with a masked warrior who welcomes us and tells us to just go straight, but if we want, we can venture down the other paths. I went down one of the paths and then went straight. The paths actually put you in these mini boss battles that are incredibly easy, but they actually nerfed the main boss battle of this island, so I didn't want to do it. But I recommend doing it, or at least venturing over. Just don't fight the bosses because the Pictos are really good. A huge mask appears like a giant Goliath with a wand. This guy looks really cool, and he like shapeshifts into different masks depending on what emotion his attack is doing. This boss battle was fun. It has a weird gimmick that I actually didn't know about till after I beat him, and I was a little underwhelmed. But then we get a cutscene, and it turns out the guy that was friendly in the beginning, telling us to go down the path, was the real Axon. And holy shit, he looks cool. Probably my favorite design in the game. And his voice, holy shit, it is sinister. This guy is straight badass, using emotions to change fight styles and hallucinations. The Masked Keeper throws masks at everyone, taking over their minds and brainwashing them. One that hits CL, and she just catches it. That was sick. CL, being one of the few people that hold their emotions on their sleeve, is unaffected because she doesn't put on a persona, she is herself. And she finishes the Axon off, and I love that we are getting some love for the side characters, kind of like a shonen anime. That's one Axon down. The next Axon is the complete opposite of the creepy place we were just at. It's more mirage-like and majestic as hell, with an Arabian theme to this whole desert-like dungeon. A dancer in the middle charming us with how fluid the dance is, giving very lotus flower vibes from Greek mythology. We don't want to leave, we just want to dance. And everything will be alright. Sarian uses grief from all the expeditioners, showing characters like Gustave de Maillet, or Lune's parents, or CL's dead husband. This shit is fucked up, bro. Disrespecting the dead like that is gonna get you curb stomped. And that we did. This fight was more spectacle filled and overall a pretty easy fight, but still really fun. Not giving into hallucinations, Lune is the one who takes her out. The reason for she is more focused on the mission and she is not sidetracked. Serene picks her up and then Lune flicks her on the forehead, destroying her. The weapon can now be made to pierce the veil. It's time to move on to the painters. We entered an area and see that the massive giant sitting and painting the numbers is just chilling. We try to attack, but nothing works. The paintress then opens her hole and lets us in. Entering the monolith, it looks to be that we are in Spring Meadows again, but looks like a miniature version of it. Is this some kind of human playhouse theme? As we go through the monolith, we are going through our entire journey in the form of a dungeon, but in a way that feels fresh, with many mini-bosses at the end of each area. Throughout the dungeon, we see glimpses of a little girl's past. It looks like to be the backstory of this paintress god. But the figure looks more like Alicia, the girl with the white hair that we met. So maybe that's who it is, but you can't really tell because it's just figures. You don't really see a face or hair color or anything. This is a long dungeon, but it's definitely one of my favorites. This feels like a final dungeon for such an amazing journey. We almost reached the tippy top, and guess who's waiting for us? Of course, it's Medicaid. Renoir and Verso argue about how Verso chose to leave and how Renoir just wanted to save his son. Verso replies with, "I'm tired, it's time to end this." And Renoir says something hard, like, "If saving you means losing you, then so be it." That shit was cold as hell. fucking amazing music starts playing, and we get to fight this aura farmer, medicated man at his fullest. This is gonna be awesome. We finish the fight, and Renoir uses his spiritual pressure to hold Verso and Mael down. Renoir spouts something about the paintress being the curator's wife, and no wonder he just started following us around. But the curator from our camp in the manor comes to take Mael and put her hand on Renoir, and it completely Thanos snaps him. I'm sitting here scratching my head, losing my shit like, why the hell did Mael just Thanos snap that old man? How did she do that? Don't tell me she's the paintress in some alternate timeline or some shit. And why out of all people did the curator help us if that's his wife? So many questions, but man, oh man, this shit is peak. And I don't say that lightly. Beyond this door is the paintress, and we make to the absolute top of the monolith. She sits there, staring at the world. Is she the creator of this magnificent world? Seems like she's overrun with anxiety and pain. Well, we did it. This is what we worked so hard for, and it's time to take her out. But she seems somewhat harmless and warm. Our final boss fight begins. The first phase is somewhat easy, but with some weird telegraphic attacks. But then she Gigantamaxes, but then arises her Susanoo, the one that was painting the numbers on the monolith. In order to reach her, Verso throws Sori at Esquier and tells him to fly. I guess he just had it the whole time. And she goes from 0 to 100 so fast. This shit is tough. Her attacks are the hardest to parry in the game to this point, especially that 9-hit combo she does, and then into her pulling apart the world, pulling its ass cheeks opening, summoning little asteroids like Fujitora. This fight is nothing but grit of my teeth and a fucking amazing presentation, and one of the few bosses in the game to have a third phase. Well, if you want to call it that. It took me like 12 tries and an hour and 30 or 2 hours to beat her. But man, it was fun. Definitely my favorite boss fight so far. But by the end, instead of attacking, she just kept healing us while she was in her decimated state. One blow of the wind could rip her apart. Is she really the enemy? Is she really behind all this? As she falls to the ground, Verso rushes over to catch her. Mael instinctively does the same. They hold her hand over her head, and she fades. She whispers, Alicia, before the end. As we place the Expedition 33 flag down on top of the monolith, we have accomplished our mission. Everything should be okay. I really didn't think we would get to this point. I really thought we would get interrupted and something else would happen. But we did it. We defeated the Paintress. What now? With the Paintress gone, I have to think that everybody is just immortal now. Kinda similar to Verso's standpoint. There's no god ruling over them. Their time of living has just been extended. But there's still so many different mysteries that I have questions on. So many mysteries that are unsolved. Will we get them? I don't know. Find out on the next part of Expedition 33. Now, in all seriousness, I'll talk about the end of Act 2 in the third part of this video, for obvious reasons. So, let's get a more detailed explanation on all the characters. Now that we have a new MC, we are introduced to a new mechanic, social links, kinda like Persona games. It came out of nowhere, because Gustav didn't have any, but it makes sense because he knew everyone there already. And it makes sense that Verso would be a perfect template to be our eyes for the player to learn more about the characters. At camp, every night you're just able to hang out with your crewmates, getting to learn some of their deepest and darkest secrets, and learning more about how their personality is. I really enjoyed this mechanic. It wasn't foot shoved into your mouth like Persona, but it was there if you wanted to do it. While I've never had problems with the Persona relationship systems, I was just making an example. These are completely optional, and if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But you'll be missing out on some really powerful skills and some really interesting dialogue. Every character just feels human. They don't feel like a cardboard cutout of a random personality trait like a lot of anime games are. This is a mature approach to the relationship systems that Persona puts in, kinda similar to Like a Dragon, but definitely not as in depth as Like a Dragon. Let's start off with Eskie. This is an interesting one. While we, the players, know nothing about Eskie, Verso has known him for a very long time, and you get to experience that through the memories they talk about and the reminiscing they partake in, while also hearing what the characters are saying behind Verso's back, not in a bad way. Eskie is just our lovable mascot of the group, but he's not shoehorned in. He is just a fantastic personality with a demeanor that can't be broken even in this hostile, shitty ass world. As he literally says, he's always happy and never mad. He often describes his emotions in childlike sounds like wee and woo, which is both hilarious and adorable. You learn a bit of fundamental traits and qualities Verso has as a character, which aren't forced to you through a flashback, which I wouldn't mind, but this way of character depth is great as well. CL, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she is the first camp member you can hang out with, which comes with her very trusting nature and honest personality, which I was completely wrong about when I was writing about Act 1. CL gets very personal really fast because of how open she is, talking about having children early so that children have the longer life to live if you are in their life, for more time to help them grow. Really deep stuff off the rip. You learn about some of her past and family experiences as well as a phobia that is interesting for someone on our expedition with us. She's definitely got that Crystal Girl personality, talking about the stars and spiritual things, like that one girl you met at Burning Man to never see again. She is one of the two that you can romance in this game, with Verso as the MC of the story now. I actually accidentally did it, because there's not much warning or emphasis on it, unlike Persona, where it's fucking life or death situation. Lune, being our scientist of the group, has the most interest in Verso, interviewing him anytime she gets a chance because of her fascination with his situation of being immortal and having lots of history on the past expeditions. Her relationship at first does not seem like a friendship and instead more like a business transaction. She is trying to get as much information from him on this world as possible, but she does eventually open up, and we also learn that she's got a lot in common with Verso, and they bond over their passion. Later on, we'll get to learn more about her past and secrets, since she's not akin to opening up until much later. We also learn she writes in her journal every day, since she's not much of an emotion shower. It's her way of expressing her feelings. It's pretty cute. Mael. This relationship is the only relationship that advances on its own in the beginning. Just as you go through the story, we find out that she never felt like she belonged anywhere either, and really was just following Gustav's will in order to escape the town. Kind of a deep talk about how condolences or sorry for your loss never really make you feel better, and I really vibe with that. It's just a normal thing that we do, It's just a respectful thing when someone that's close to you has someone that dies. But do most people even really mean it? Who knows? She's the only one that gives you a full-on gift, being the expedition badge, recruiting Verso into the team officially. We learn a lot more about Verso through his interactions with Mael and some of his dreams and aspirations, as well as more details on Mael's past. Verso helps Mael cope with loss, which she says she's having a hard time dealing with the suggestion of talking to Gustav in spirit, remembering how they act, their mannerisms, their etiquette, and body language. It helps Mael learn even more about Gustav. Verso is now feeling like he's taking the place of Gustav's role in her life, that being her guidance. As she goes through her adolescence, she has the most time out of everyone on the team left, except for Verso himself. Verso shares a beautiful scene where he summons a piano and plays for Mael, showing off his passion and talent for the piano. And I'll talk about that more in the music section. Our favorite Gestural doesn't need an introduction for Verso. Minoko's entire bond is nothing new for Verso. Instead, it's like having that remember the time moments with the boys that would last for hours. I say if you like Minoko a lot and want to see more of him, do his relationship, because the game doesn't spend too much focus on him after we meet him. The chemistry these guys have is just like any other iconic duos, like SpongeBob and Patrick, Jay and Silent Bob, PB and J, and the two of my nuts hanging. And I'm not gonna lie, this relationship hit me the hardest because it makes me think about my own best friends who I live with and I am always creating memories with, thinking about it in the future in our own retirement home with our wives, and we're still cracking the same old brain rot jokes in front of the gruz. Minoko's just a weird guy. He's just sitting there polishing his feet. Yeah, you heard me, polishing his Nevron feet that he collects. I just think it's hilarious that he takes the ability of the Nevrons by licking their feet. Noko, we don't get a relationship line with him, but just a few dialogue exchanges, basically hyping him up like we always do with kids. He's our small little businessman because he travels as a merchant. Kinda wish he had more time to talk to, like a short quest line or something, because I just keep forgetting he was here. I really enjoyed the way they did the side content for the bonds, because it set out to develop the characters on your own time, which allows for the entire narrative to be much shorter than it could have been. And some players probably just don't care to learn more about the characters and just follow the story, which is okay too. I'm not one of them though. This piece is both haunting and weeping. The only instrument in this track is the piano, and it's so beautiful. You can feel the mysterious, ominous feeling to his character. He's not some epic Chad with a badass guitar theme. His love for music really shines in this theme through the solo piano, as if it was written by himself. A very sad realization. The piece itself ends very abruptly, as if he was shooken by the pain this piece brought to him, that he just gave up. We don't know much about his past yet, but it's gotta be rough. If that's what Lorien was going for, that's masterful storytelling with no lyrics. Duelist, another banger boss track with a backing choir just to add to the rawness of the blades of this Nevron. There's such a mix of instruments to really make this battle come together. such as an organ and the light piano melodies. This track actually has part of the plot not discussed, just in plain sight for anyone that speaks French, which I just noticed now, but most of the game can be spoiled if you know French and listen to her lyrics, which is a super cool detail for us non-native speakers, but I feel bad for the French. This boss battle was amazing. Really was a parry test for you. If you can't parry, you're gonna get absolutely fucked. And the spectacle at the end of the fight with all of them working together was so cool. I wish more boss fights did this. Imaginable to be Gustave's humming as he drifts away from this world, basically telling from the heavens, don't worry about me, please keep going forward. His selflessness to sacrifice for others led to his downfall, but it was always and always will be for those that come after. The generations of expeditions to find his journal and notes to hopefully one day succeed the mission of the expedition. This is also the song that plays when Sophie passes, and now they are reunited. This character theme plays twice in the game, but it's so good. The random big band jazz that we can hear a little bit in Gestural Village is back, but with an amazing saxophone line and some ragtime piano exploding out of nowhere. Then the saxophone comes back with vengeance. This theme is a banger. Here's all three of the bangers that play at the Gestural Beaches when you're doing parkour or playing volleyball. This song will capture your heart and force you to slow dance with a stranger, spawning a rose in your mouth. It's just that majestic to listen to. Serene really charms you with her voice and melody. Now this song sets a shiver down my spine, with the recording spinning backwards. This represents the sad mask, but I feel like it fits the entire island perfectly in my opinion. And each of the visages themes are similar with a different emotion conveyed using different instruments, such as one for anger using an aggressive organ and joy having a much upbeat piano melody with vocals, and sadness having a backwards record spin with distorted chords. This right here, not going to lie, might be one of my favorite boss themes. Accompanied by this hard as fuck boss battle, at least for the second half. And when the drums beat louder with more kicks, and the transition of all the choir being in sync allows for the most epic theme you'll hear. Alice keeps on and getting an octave higher throughout the track. Oh my god, it's so good. This tune plays during the Monolith dungeon, a nice appetizer before we get to the top of the mountain. This song encaptures the paintress's goals. It literally spoils everything if you understand the lyrics.
Cette toile d'une fausse vie.
Holy fuck, this banger came out of literally nowhere. The lyrics being screamed at you at full force just makes you feel Renoir's spiritual pressure and wrath, and his overwhelming aura he brings when he's waving his stupid ass cane and then makes some of your damn party members just disappear. He's so fucking cool. The old man in media always had the most badass moments. Don't get me started on that guitar and violin duet at the end that literally embodies peak. And I lied, this is my favorite music in the game for a boss battle.
Dans l'eau que je ne peux voir.
I might have gotten a little carried away there, but that track is probably the best boss track I've ever heard. But that's to not undermine the next track, the track that plays for the Paintress. While I really love the one before, this one is more of an epic orchestra for our main villain, the deity we have been working towards, with this percussion build up into a collaboration and celebration of all the instruments used in the OST so far. Truly the build for a final fight. The transition from the middle eerie off tempo violin into this primary vocal performance with the drums hitting every single mark. Damn, this shit is great. And then the beautiful final act of the song with a humming that can put you straight up in a trance. I cannot understate how amazing this OST is. I just want to give you a quick thank you if you've made it to this part of the video, and I love you so much. I put a lot of work into this video, and it's taken a while to make. So for games that are this impactful to me, I'm probably going to make an extremely long video talking about everything, because I had to talk about all the details of this game. Trust me, it was a little longer than this before I cut it up. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Alright, back to the video. As you can see, I was not joking. I was not undermining this music. It's that fucking amazing. But anyways, that's all I got for Act 2 up to the ending. I will now be talking about the ending of Act 2 and all of Act 3, which is the final act, and then some post-game content. So that means that I will be spoiling the entirety of the end of the game. You hear me? That is my final warning. I strongly recommend that you play the game completely before watching the third part of this video. But if you don't care, that's fine. To each his own. I just hate spoilers, so I try to make sure everybody knows I will be talking about them. So let's talk about the end of Act 2 and the start of the final act, Act 3.
L'uomo
We hop on Esquier to return to Lumiere. Why do Mael and Verso look so defeated? Is it because we still don't know the truth? Esquier makes for Lumiere. It's time to return to our loved ones. The loved ones that we still have left. In Lumiere, everyone sees there's no number on the tree anymore. The sigh of relief shakes the whole town of the people that are still left in this borderline ghost town. Minoko is hanging with the kids. They are enthralled by the gestural. Lune and Ciel see some fellow expeditioners. Mael sees Emma and the kids that looked up to Gustave to deliver the news. Verso sits on the edge of the dock, away from everyone, staring at an empty tree, as he takes a letter from his sister out of his pocket. Everybody seems so happy. They can finally live past 33. They can finally live their lives to the fullest. No more setting out on a journey to fight a fucking tree. Verso opens it and begins to read. The letter reads that she's content with the feeling she gets that Mael gets to hang with you as your true sister, while she is that of a painted version and not real. Alicia then drops the reasoning for the numbers on the tree. It is that of a warning to those that can be saved from Winrar, as he sets out to destroy this entire world in order to save his wife. The Gomage is nothing but a weakening of the paintress over years. She was saving the world from ruin, and we just killed her. Everything fades as shockwaves comes, and everyone is having a great time with their loved ones, or so it seems. As the shock gets closer, every single person begins to fade. There's no power holding the lives from Renoir's power anymore. No protection. Everyone's shield is broken. Everyone, including Lune and Ciel, turn to a petal of flowers. As Mael is the final life taken, Verso sits there in silence, thinking about the outcome that he definitely knew about. We are now in Lore 33. This is where we get a lot of the answers dropped, and I'm telling you right now, I was thirsty for this shit. After being completely wrong on some of my theories, I was dying to know the truth. I'm glad it's not some kind of ending where it's left ambiguous, which this type of game definitely could have gotten away with, but they know we were gooning for answers. This flashback is to wrap up all of the questions we had into a tight little bow, answering pretty much every single one of them. The first thing we see is Verso with flames behind him as he reaches out his hand and says, "You're okay," until he disintegrates. We wake up as Alicia and get called downstairs in the manor from Clair, a certain character that we've heard a couple things about throughout the story. And as we notice, Alicia, her face, half her face is burned and she still can't talk. She resembles the white-haired girl that we see throughout the story. Obviously, this is Alicia. The manor itself is not completely empty, like when we visit through the game. I didn't pay attention before, but all the paintings in the manor are the worlds of this game. Some pretty crafty foreshadowing for what's to come. Heading down to what we see is a painting room full of finished and unfinished paintings all around. Our sister, Clair, standing there. Our mother is sitting idly frozen still, while our father is hitting that insane JoJo pose, also frozen. Painted all over their eyes, succumbed, and looks to be trapped in another world. This entire time, we have been isekai'd into stuck in another world, but I die before I can get a mortgage in 2025. and we learn that we can go into paintings Mario 64 style and explore the world of them. Man, I fucking love Chalkstone. Here's where the chiaroscuro themes come in metaphorically and physically. Chiaroscuro, an artistic method using the gradients of light and dark in order for the shadows to give off this 3D perspective. This was used in Italy during the Renaissance era. Other methods that accompanied this was sfumato, which means vanish like smoke. This involved using brushstrokes to give foggy effects, which really shows in the environments of this world. This technique is used on the most famous paintings of the world, such as Da Vinci's Mona Lisa and Tintoretto's Last Supper. Chiaroscuro literally translates to Clair Obscur in French, something that was right in front of us this entire time. The use of the metaphor, a painting being a literal 2D surface, but the painting that was painted named Clair Obscur is literally a world that you can jump into and be 3D in. Thematic, really. This goes into the story beats as well, that will also go into the ending, the process of light and dark. Really some genius storytelling, and it destroyed every single AAA game that has came out in the last decade. Clair comes around to talk to us, to drop a shit ton of lore. Alicia and Verso used to use the painting as a playground as kids. Verso would paint what I assume is Verso's favorite toy, Esquier. You learn he loved playing with Esquier in some of the journal entries, as well as Minoko, who he would paint as a version of his dog in the painting. You find out about this by walking around the manor and seeing a dog who Alicia talks about as Minoko, and Minoko's puppy, Noko. I really don't think many people saw this, so I thought I'd point this out. It makes sense that Minoko in the painted world is just Verso's dog, his best friend. And these become Verso's imaginary childhood friends. Our mother entered the canvas as a way to see Verso again, after the fire that took him away. Not being able to move on, she wants to stay with him for as long as she can. I don't know if you've already connected the dots, but she is the paintress. She created a painted version of her family. The Alicia with the mask, Renoir, and our Verso are the painted family. She wanted to be around her family again, even if it's completely fake. Father has entered the canvas in order to save his wife, because he believes the grief in the canvas is detrimental to her health. The game doesn't tell you, but it's implied that time moves much differently in the painting compared to the real world. They have been put in the canvas fighting for years, 67 in fact, while maybe a few weeks and months in the real world. This family is a family of painters, and inside the painting, they are basically gods of that world. They can create anything with the chroma energy that is left. They cannot physically control someone once they are painted. They are just free to live their lives, which a lot of the residents of Lumiere did. But there are two gods fighting at the top and the bottom of the monolith. The paintress, Mom, was actually helping us this whole time, keeping her power and chroma, shielding the living people in the canvas from Renoir, who is set to erase everything. The number on the monolith was a warning to let people know her power is weakening and she can only save so many. Nevrons were Renoir's army, monsters we fought throughout the game that were created to kill expeditioners, who were Aline's creation and leaving their chroma inside their bodies, weaken her every year. Renoir did not create them, Clair did in order to help her father. When painted Renoir kills the expeditioners, the chroma is actually released back up to Aline in order to help her win the fight against Renoir. So it's a tug-of-war situation with chroma. The accents were created by Renoir as tributes to his family in order to protect the monolith. And a lot of what I just said was not stated in the game's story, rather more in some of the dialogue entries. Finally, we briefly learn about the opposing force that actually caused the fire in the first place. The writers. While we were a family of painters, there is another organization as the writers. Not much is known about them, but Clair mentions that the painters are at war with them as they used Elaine against them before. And Clair mentions she will one-man army the writers if she has to, but she'd rather not. Damn, bro, is Clair that OP? This is all we get on the information of the writers. Couple theories I see float around is that this is just a fourth wall break and they're actually talking about the writers of the game, which is low-key kind of fucking cool if that is the case. Clair asks Elaine to hop in the painting and help Renoir to save Mother and destroy the canvas versus painting. Elaine agrees and hides the painting, so if Elaine is kicked out, she won't re-enter it for a while. Alicia enters the painting. The final act has now begun. Unable to scream, only having 10 out of 20 vision, and overall overwhelmed and weakened by how powerful her mother's chroma is, she is repainted, losing all of her memories, being reborn into a new family as a completely different person who will go by as Maëlle. Renoir erasing us allowed us to regain our memories of being Elaine. It's a little confusing, but a guy on Reddit explained it perfectly. Imagine the canvas is a multiplayer game. Alicia is a player. Maëlle is her character. When Maëlle was killed, Alicia rejoined the game and created another account, Maëlle 2. Since she is more experienced now, and also because the paintress is not there, this time she wasn't overwritten by the chroma and has full memory of both the player and her character. Thanks, Brulia Dawn. So that's what happened. She is now Alinel, or Malino. With her mother's chroma not overwhelming her, Maëlle is now stronger and reborn. She is a painter in the canvas now. As she respawns back into the canvas, she sees Verso sitting on the bench alone. As she approaches Verso, they have a nice heart-to-heart, telling Verso that he's not Verso, that he's himself. He's a painted image from his mother, with Verso's memories planted in him, but he is just a person inside someone else's body. Man, I couldn't imagine going through that. The identity crisis you would have that would set me off the edge so fast. Maëlle wants to introduce Verso to her real father, not the painted version that Verso knows. Maëlle doesn't plan on destroying the painting, instead of preserving it by asking Renoir for help, saying he has a soft spot for her. This is very in character for her to think like this, but I just don't think this will work at all. Meeting up with our dad, the curator, was the person looking over us. The curator is our real Renoir. He's proud of Maëlle for defeating Mom, and apologizes to Verso for existing, and offers erasure as forgiveness. Renoir still plans on erasing the painting, and I see where he's coming from. Grief. Grief is a hard thing to get over, especially someone who is close and family, especially when you have ways like painting to still feel their presence, which I understand both sides of the canvas. Mom and Dad, neither of them are evil, but instead a lot more complicated and gray. Renoir won't let Alicia throw her life away on the canvas, but to her, she's spent the exact same amount of time in both the real and painted world. 16 years in both, which makes her reasoning make sense, even though it's a fantasy. But she's handicapped in the real world, unable to speak or talk, half her body scarred. Considering the options, yeah, I'm sure she'd rather live in the canvas, but at the same time, it's not real. Renoir shocks the ground, starts to destroy Lumiere. Verso starts to gamage as well, but Mael comes back with creative mode and shoots some chroma into him, making him survive. Esquier and Minoko come and pick us up, and we get away from Renoir for now, heading to camp to regroup. Mael, since she's in creative mode, found that she can revive people with chroma still in their bodies. People that were gamaged or killed by Nevrons are able to come back. She repaints Ciel and Lune and explains the situation. But since Gustave was killed by painted Renoir, his chroma left his body and is unable to be resurrected. Lune and Ciel are pissed at Verso for lying and thinking in false dichotomies the entire journey. And to be honest, these are valid crash outs. He was a manipulative, articulated, and withheld crucial information in order to only think of himself and his family. But I mean, who can blame him? Yes, he's a shitty person, but he's also technically a creator of this canvas. Ciel isn't actually that mad. She states she got over it and is just happy that there's the possibility she can see her husband again when it's all over. Verso is an amazingly written character. Even though he's a shitty person, it's a refreshing take and literally the complete opposite of Gustave. Verso explains to Mael that he doesn't really want to preserve the canvas either, because this entire world is carrying the burden of one family's grief, which is a slippery slope on being selfish and selfless. And finally, it's time for a final rest at the camp. And it's time to create the greatest expedition ever to stop our father. Just a quick disclaimer, this game has a lot of side content that you can complete before or after the game. And I am going to talk about that after, since I can also talk about the music of it in the final music section of this video. With our new power, we march to find all the fallen expeditioners and revive them so that we can march our way into Lumiere with those that came before in spirit, taking on all the Nevrons invading Lumiere coming out of Renoir's asshole. This moment is so fucking epic because you think you're about to get milli rocked by this stupid ass flash drive, but then out comes one of our fallen allies from a different generation. One word: badass. This is a solid final dungeon, but the real thing is just the spectacle of the past expeditioners, and then the beautiful garden we stumble upon right before meeting with our father. Renoir is standing, staring off at the distance, waiting. He doesn't actually want to do this, as he contemplates destroying the last piece of his dead son's soul, and to live in a place where he can be alive. But he really must if he wants to save his family from this intoxicating fiction that they have painted, this Minecraft world that they poured decades into creating, designing, living in this false reality where everything is okay for them. Not the sentient beings in this world that live with overwhelming fear of their lifespan shortening year by year at an exceptionally fast rate. Well, they only exist due to the master of the painting, but you still know where I'm coming from. Lune and Ciel speak in favor of keeping the world to back Mael up. Lune's speech about inheriting her parents' wishes, but in the end, she's the one that makes the decision on her life. Ciel's speech about how this world is full of the living, how she grieves for the people that have lost their life in this canvas. Verso sits in silence. Renoir accepts those speeches and states that they are the truth, but ultimately this is the only decision he can make to save his family, or if Mael and Aline would just leave of their own free will. Renoir is terrified that he'll lose Aline to this drug as well and argues with Maëlle about the canvas taking her. Enough arguing, Maëlle is the first to draw her sword. Renoir does the same. The battle starts. Renoir reverts back to the curator, the keeper of the canvas as of now. Unfortunately, if you've watched my metaphor review, I did this same mistake twice, and I was over-leveled for this boss, and overpowered. It was still an awesome fight, but I think it's just a tad underwhelming compared to the Paintress. His attacks can be really weird to time with a different rhythm for most of the combos he has on his brush. Visages and Serene help him in battle to a point where I was like, oh shit, I kinda like this. If you do too much damage to him, he'll get hella shields, prolonging his stand. But then as the Axons are helping, Aline shows up. Looks like she did not learn a lesson and found where we were hiding the painting. Or did Maëlle even hide it well? Aline coming out was a very weird surprise. I was not expecting that at all. Very cool, fitting for a character that doesn't seem to learn. On the final hit, Renoir ramps up his power in this epic charge to his sword, only to be interrupted by Maëlle and shot down immediately in this epic daughter versus father sequence that ends the fight. Renoir is coughing up blood and drops a tidbit that we are unaware of. He has been here before. He has been lost in a canvas, maybe not this one, before, and how Aline had saved him from losing himself that first time. He wants to do the same for her and his daughter. She never let me forget that every day we spend here comes with a price of our life. And he has been betrayed by his own family that he's only just trying to save. Maëlle rebuttals that he only wants control because he couldn't save Verso, or so he wants to save the entire family. Yeah, that's the whole point. But he doesn't just want control, he just wants his family back, as he states, while showing a glimpse of how the painting is slowly eating away at Aline's lifespan. He says as he's been trapped in the monolith for 67 years, and the first thing he does when he's free is paint the accents that remind him of his family. Verso sees Aline struggling to keep up. Anger fills his face. Maëlle responds that she doesn't want to lose Lune, Ciel, or the others. That's exactly how she feels if she erases this world. This brought a tear to my eye. And what follows is Renoir finally trusting his daughter, as she states she won't be gone forever, just a little longer. Renoir says, I'll keep the light on for you, giving full trust into Maëlle that she'll leave the canvas eventually. Verso is silent. Renoir has no power left. He has been kicked from the lobby. The portal of Aline is still open. Verso says sorry and then enters. We are met with the most ethereal and chilling area in the game. This place looks absolutely unreal. Like an artist was distraught and painted every color he could think of as a combination of darks, red, and orange. Reminds me of the flames that took Verso. We see a child, and this child is a version of Verso that we've seen throughout the game, painting on the ground. Verso approaches him, says to you're tired of painting, aren't you? Because I am too. It's time to go home, he says, as Maëlle follows upon and is confused how Verso is in the canvas control center. I mean, are you forgetting whose canvas this was in the first place? Maëlle says he shouldn't be here. Verso says, what could be the main quote to live by for this game? See things for how they are, and not how you want them to be. Verso calls out Maëlle for the blatant lie Maëlle told father. Maëlle denies but knows it's the truth. Renoir still has faith that Maëlle will eventually come around, even if she lied in that moment. What a goat. As Verso holds his hand out to the scared child Verso, he's ready to end it. He's ready to delete the canvas, to finally lay to rest after these 100 years of suffering. Mael then severs the connection that was about to happen, saying that she still wants to hold on. Mael with her sword drawn first. Verso looks at her. "I'm sorry," and draws his sword. As a battle between the siblings is about to begin. 1. This is a ballsy move to have the ending with these two main characters fighting. 2. This is a ballsy move to let the player decide who to play and fight said characters. While I mainly agree with Verso, only because he is the original creator, he is the reason this canvas exists. I think he has the authority to make the decision. However, he's committing mass genocide to all of the living beings inside of this canvas. Arguably, they are not real, but they've proved that they are just as human as the rest of us. But then again, Mael forcing her brother to live on in the canvas when he himself wants to pass, because he's not even her real brother, just a fake image of what she thinks he is. Becoming a god of the canvas, does she really have what it takes to take on the responsibility, while also killing herself in the process, never getting to see her real family again, just fake adaptations of them? I actually sat there for a couple minutes contemplating and finally made my decision to end this fake reality. Fiction can really take a toll on us. It is an escape from reality in order to put us in the place of comfort or reminiscent of nostalgia. And it can be very dangerous, a drug to play with, altering your sense of time, relationships, and much more. Not going to lie, I've been there. Yes, sometimes the real world sucks compared to fiction. We get lost in it, but at the end of the day, it's not the real life we are living. The battle has begun. I'm facing off against Mael. A damn near one-shotter, but want to hear the dialogue between them, so I just kept skipping my turn. Verso has a line saying that we are just all hypocrites, doing the same thing to each other. And he couldn't be any more right. Mael keeps begging him to come home. Neither of them want this fight. Finally, we take her out. As we hold Mael in our arms, as she starts to vanish, she's scared, terrified that she's going back to a life without a voice and have a face, and a life without Verso. I would be too, but you're throwing your real life away after the real Verso sacrificed himself so that you would be able to continue living. Meanwhile, she clings onto the shadow of her brother forever. The age difference here takes a play too. Verso is 100 years old, while Mael is only 16, technically maybe 32 if you count the real world and here. But mentally, she is still young, and this is the first time she's had to deal with grief. Verso has overcome it and has buried so many friends and close ones, and even his love. He sees death as a friend, just like CL. Verso helps reassure her that she's going to be alright and she'll be able to do great things, even despite her physical torment she'll have. And she's gone. She has been kicked from the server. The canvas starts to fade. Minoko and Eskie, his true, real friends that have been with him all this time, get together for a group hug as they vanish. CL comes out to grab his hand. She seems more okay with this choice than anyone so far. Lune, however, is pissed, giving Verso the death stare as she refuses to go near him. She sits on the ground because she was betrayed again. Verso grabs young Verso's hand and finally stops painting and deletes the world. The epilogue for Verso's ending now begins. We cut back to the family in the real world surrounding Verso's real grave. Mael is holding Verso's toy Eskie. Clair is holding flowers. While usually cold, she lifts a little smirk. I guess she really is happy to have her family back after all. Aline is struggling. Renoir holds and comforts her. We can't see Maelle's emotion because of the scars, but she has a subtle change of her lips, so I assume that was her smile. Not a word was said in this cutscene, and then we are left off with a final gut punch. The painted world with all the characters waving goodbye behind Verso's grave. It shows that the family can finally get over the grief and move on, while still cherishing their dead loved one. But it's time to move on with life and accomplish other things. Meanwhile, the fiction that we created is gone. It's forever erased. All of the lives and the stories we had in that world are now gone. I think this is the most canon ending, and it fits everyone's characters. Unlike the second ending, which had me a little confused. Now, if you choose Maelle and to defeat Verso, you get a much different ending. Once again, I one-shotted him. After defeating Verso, he starts to slowly fall to the ground, dropping even though he's immortal. He still feels the pain. Verso begs and begs Maelle to please make him stop painting. I can't do this anymore. I can't. I don't want this life. I don't want this life. Please. Maelle states it's gonna be okay. Verso keeps begging in gut-wrenching emotion. Please unpaint me. I don't want this life. Maelle doesn't abide his wishes. Even if she unpaints Verso, the canvas will still go on. Verso is just left to rot in this shell of a life that he never asked for. Barely a life because he's not himself, but just a copy of someone's memories. Verso's final words are literally, "Help me." This makes me so mad. Please, he's begging you. He's suffered long enough. Just unpaint him. We then cut to the epilogue of Maelle's ending. Lumiere has been restored. The citizens and expeditioners going into a theater. We see Esquier and Minoko as security. Maelle with a little boy that looks to be the kid version of Verso, painting the canvas. Or, who the hell is he? I actually have no idea, and apparently no one else does either. Ciel is sitting with her revived husband in the front of the theater with Lune by her side. Maelle and the kid come to sit down. What actually broke me on this ending is Gustave and Sophie are back. Damn, it's good to see them back, even for just a second. Everyone has a seat and stares to see the star of the show. Verso is along the stage, and as soon as he appears on screen, the filter for him is black and white with two borders of a 4x4 wall surrounding his scene as he walks towards the piano on stage. This artistic decision shows his despair as he's trapped within the walls of the canvas, unable to pass on. As he sits along, ready to play piano, silence fills the scene, while we only have a close-up hits of Verso's face as his eyes look bleak and hesitant to play. Even though piano is his life, he's enraged. You can see it. All our friends and all watching him suffer. Then we hear the most chilling chromatic chord cluster into Maelle's face turning painted and chroma flaring, enslaving Verso, forcing him to play piano, becoming the new god of this world. Verso then begins to play, and the credits roll. First off, I damn near shit my pants when the chromatic cluster sound dropped, with that dark painted face of Maelle, literally reminded me of the Exorcist face. Second off, Maelle being absorbed by power, puppeting and enslaving people's happiness was not on my bingo card, and it literally makes me hate this ending. It's downright pure evil. Even when Aline was in control, she didn't enslave anyone to life. Well, not that we've seen. Both endings are thematic. There's no happy ending. There's only enslavement and mass genocide. Pick one. I chose a painless death. But that's what sets this game's endings apart from anything I've ever played. And I've enjoyed both the endings, even though it meant an assassination of a character for Mael. But sometimes, that's what power will do to you. The head developer of the game even stated that he wanted us to have great endings, so no good or bad, just both great and thematic and very interesting. Well, now that the story is out of the way, let's talk about the side content, which story-wise makes sense to be done before the final boss, but for some reason, you also shouldn't due to how overpowered you'll be when you complete it all. That's my flaw with Act 3. It's only the side content and the final boss, which this wouldn't be a problem if the final boss had an option to scale its level with you, so that you won't be overpowered. But I digress. Like, there are 2 amazing bosses to complete after the final bosses that are much harder than Renoir was, but story-wise it makes more sense to defeat them before, you know what I mean? And yes, this video is extremely fucking long. So, all of Act 3 is basically the final boss and the side content. There's dozens of optional bosses that will whoop your ass, and tons of little mini dungeons that you can go to once you can fly. But my favorite part is there's a lot of awesome character quests and side content that can be completed. Sorry, that was my blood sugar monitor. I reached a new low score. Anyways, there's a lot of awesome character quests and side content that can be completed, and I want to touch base with more character dives since I'm free to talk about all spoilers. Let's start with our Feet Only Fans creator, Lune. Lune's quest. We learn of Lune's parents and how she was basically born to inherit her parents' goals by reaching Serene's dress in an area next to Serene. They raised her to be knowledgeable and advanced in everything about the expedition. Lune is a gifted genius that cannot sit down her mind and is an embodiment of her parents' knowledge, while her siblings have their own lives, while she's set to just be her parents' dreams. Her interest in science also takes her interest in Verso, as he's such an enigma, being 100 years old and a walking void of depression and lies. Lune gives us insight on how the children of Lumiere lived when the age cap was 33. Many children actually started working at age 6, learning more than playing in order to reach adulthood earlier. That sounds like hell. Lune's birth was essentially a researcher assistant that could never go home. This sounds like a true cruelty to do to your own child, because she never got to explore what she took an interest in on her own, not interest from her parents, even though it did also align. Here, we also learn that Lune loves music and has a passion for playing guitar, which aligns with Verso's passion for the piano. Editor note, I forgot that you learned that she plays guitar in the very beginning. I am so sorry. Lune's parents were a part of Expedition 46, who met their demise at the hands of a chromatic Lasando, some Vania worm. Through the entry, we learn her mother fought the Vania for a fortnight after it gave her an infected wound, an STD. I'm joking. The last thing she hears from her mother is, "My daughter will finish my work," which can mean I love you in this form of a parent-daughter relationship, but is still a bit unsettling. CL. We actually learn a little bit about Sophie through her because she was like best friends with her. We learn that Sophie loves children so much that the best thing she can do for them is to not have them. Which I like that she gets a little more depth. We learned the truth of how Ciel's husband died. He died in an accident in Lumiere, and it was a water accident. This gives Ciel's fear of water a little more weight. Eventually, Verso and Esquier warm Ciel up enough to try and learn how to swim to conquer her fear. So Verso takes it upon him to teach her to give her exposure therapy, because being afraid of water is just going to be a huge detriment to the journey they have. Pierre is the name of Ciel's late husband, and we get insight that he was a school volunteer, and that he was a teacher, and that Ciel took over his school in order to continue his work. Verso then asks the final question: if you could paint a copy of him here, would you, even though they are not real? Ciel answers, if you ask me now, then no. Because I can see the torment it takes on you, and don't want to wish that upon anyone. But before she would have said yes, she would have done it just to feel his voice, or his arms around her. She felt the lack of space he had in her life. After he passed, the little things like the dip in the chair he sat, and the emptiness in his jacket felt real. Ciel finally gives her reasoning for fear of water. She tried to take her own life by drowning herself after Pierre died. She woke up on a dock somehow and admitted to the hospital. The doctor said something shocking, that Ciel was pregnant and that she had caused severe oxygen deprivation for her child. She lost her child. She still wants Maëlle to bring Pierre back, but if he comes back, she doesn't know how to tell him that I lost our child. Hearing that, I literally almost bawled. Everything in Ciel's plotline connected perfectly, and is my personal favorite side story. Though I wish she did have a quest. She's like the only one that doesn't have a quest. Even Minoko and Esquier have quests. Esquier, the light and the dark story. He's so innocent and sweet, it makes all the pain of how sad this story is go away. We learned that Verso is an amazing dancer through Esquier. Esquier also has a hidden wine storage in his belly for Verso that Ciel reveals to the entire party. Little moments like these help the characters bond and you actually feel for them, compared to like your standard $70 AAA game where the characters are just flat and stagnant. Everyone here feels real. We get an explanation for Verso having the flying stone for Esquier. Verso states he didn't want the others to want to go back to Lumiere before the mission was over. Throughout the game, you actually hear what Lune and Ciel are saying about Verso when they talk to Esquier, almost like Esquier is the wingman giving us some info on Verso to them, since they are very interested in him. Esquier and Verso have been counting down how long they've known each other down to the amount of seconds, and it's really refreshing take, given that they are both over 100 years old, and being alive that long alters your sense of time, making it very easy to count how long something's been. At least that's what I think. Two things that you find out of Esquier that just almost break my heart in a good way. Esquier was more best friends with real Verso, but he explains to Painted Verso that he is not the real Verso, but they are still best friends. 2. Ciel and Esquier actually have met before, and he states this earlier in the cave when he's like, "Oh, it's you," and Ciel is just confused that he knows her. In reality, Esquier was actually the one who saved Ciel from drowning. Esquier actually heard her crying and saved her off that, which gives Esquier the title, the best friend of the party. He was never given that title, I just made it up. Getting to hang out with Minoko at the end of a climactic piece in the story was such a breather. He takes it so easy and it's always hilarious when he speaks. you get to learn more about his favorite hobby, Feet Finder. In all seriousness, the bond these two bros have is unbreakable, truly a man and his dog. Minoko's wishes are for the family to be together again, and still to play like they were kids back in the day, with Eskie, Alicia, and Clair giving a vulnerable side to our homie. Minoko's a perfect mix of comic relief and an interesting character. He has funny lines, but he's not quippy and annoying, while also having very serious moments that makes you take him very seriously. Later we get a chance to do a side quest for him. It involves reviving his son, Noko, back to going to a sacred river in order to go through with truly reviving Noko. God damn it. Minoko challenges Golgra to a duel. Verso calls him stupid, and Minoko begs him to help him in the battle. Noko is revived, but with no memories of who he is or who Minoko is. Minoko breaks down in silence and cries that his son will not recognize him anymore. Thinking about that as my future into becoming a father breaks my heart. I'm not becoming a father soon, but I'm just saying when I do. Noko is not like himself and still adjusting to being alive. Golgra takes him in order for him to get used to life again, and also so he can finish the story without him dying again. We can see him later on with Minoko in our party, but he just breaks down and cries. This shit is sad, but it almost feels like it's not complete and there was something else to be done here. We haven't got much info on Eskier's best friend, Francois, until now, where we learn he's guarding the stone to go underwater. We're given some insight on how Francois and Clair are actually close friends. I assume when she was a kid and played on the canvas a lot. Francois, while a little grumpy old rock, he really misses Clair and always talked about her with Esquier. In order to get underwater for Esquier's quest, we actually have to trade him a sculpture of Clair and himself. He says he doesn't want it at first, but then changes his mind after we kick his shell. When we leave the cave, we actually hear Francois crying and sobbing. Damn, even this old coot has a heart. Francois apparently used to sing every day when Clair was around, but now he just eagerly awaits her return. Verso, our most complex character. Verso has a scar on his eye to give him a reminder of the struggle he faced, how he was able to come to his own, but it meant walking away from everyone he's cared about in his life as an immortal. Learning that Verso and Painted Renoir also clashed, and the reason they both have scars, and that means Renoir chose the same reason, to keep the scar, just like father, like son. Verso's been through hell and back, joining many expeditions, having to bury his comrades and loved ones, and wandering the world for a century without a purpose. He's exhausted. You can see how much it's tormented him. Being immortal doesn't help either, but at least he's got his buddies Minoko, who was his dog in the real world, and Esquier, which was his favorite plush toy as a child. But he's not actually Verso. He's just a carbon copy with his memories. Verso doesn't want to exist, but he did have a past love interest, Julie, and Verso tried to spill the entire thing to her in order to convince her that he wasn't betraying her. The journal entry is an apology letter after she witnessed him coming back after other expeditions fail. Lumiere started to raise an eyebrow, leave him out because they weren't sure what other suspected plans he had. Verso was then manipulated by Painted Renoir to take Julie's life because at that time he was manipulated by Painted Renoir to protect the Paintress, his mother. This and the slaughter of the rest of Expedition Zero, along with the help of Renoir, made him start to switch sides. This cutscene was played during Mael's nightmare very early on the game. I almost completely forgot about this, but the journal entries and the lore from the game made everything make sense. Verso really is a terrible person, and it seems that real Verso would be the exact same, considering Elaine painted her family as she saw them literally. That must mean he lied and manipulated in the real world too. probably to his dad because he was forced to paint. He didn't enjoy painting. He'd rather play music. Mael. When she returns as a painter, she actually states she wants to see painted Alicia. Verso actually begs her not to because he knows what Mael really wants to do. Begs her to leave her alone. But Mael insists that she owes her something. This whole subquest pisses me off and feels very out of character, at least in my opinion, when you see what she does later on. Verso finally gives in and goes with her to a tower that was created by Renoir, for Mael to, I assume, get over her fear of vertigo, because she mentions it like 10 times while climbing. This is a really fun optional dungeon with a lot of cool loot and enemy types. Feels like it was ripped right from an unsettling horror movie in the farmlands, with the Blight Reaper roaming around. You'll notice that the Neverons here are actually fighting themselves for some reason. Interesting. Reaching the peak, we see painted Alicia painting a big old hanging vagina? What the fuck? Verso tries handing over the letter to Alicia, but she doesn't want it, and instead Zawurldo's the area to talk to Mael. Mael wants to put painted Alicia out of her misery, because she felt obligated to since Alicia has lived 100 years feeling like she needs to die already. We see a third axon, one that represents Alicia. It looks very helpless, like it's stuck in a medical bed, but atop of the tower, symbolizing that despite her wounds and setbacks, she can still reach for the sky. Yet, she wants to keep Verso alive for her own selfish needs. My man wants to die. Mael and Alicia battle it out, and Mael takes over, erasing her. Verso is absolutely pissed, because since they paused time, Verso had no way or warning to say goodbye to his sister. Remember, painted Alicia is his actual sister. Which I agree with Mael that erasing her was fine, but at least give the man a chance to say goodbye. And Mael looked like such a bitch after him explaining his reasoning. She just didn't care at all. Painted Alicia is so tragic because she didn't get those scars or inability to talk because it actually happened to her. Her mother just painted her that way to make her an exact carbon copy. So she's literally suffering for no reason. You actually find out later that Aline painted Alicia like that because she blames Alicia for Verso's death. That's fucked up on so many levels. Whenever Mael becomes a painter, I don't know why, but she seems to be more arrogant and selfish now that she has this power to paint or whatever. She doesn't seem like that scared, but also confident kid anymore. She just seems like a power-hungry demigod that can selfishly manipulate the canvas to her own gain. After the quest, we get an answer to a question that has been suspecting all this time. Mael asks, did you let Gustav die? The choices being yes, truth, and no, lie, shocked me even though I knew the truth. But if you haven't been paying attention, this reveal will absolutely knock your socks off. Whichever you choose, you will either leave with a secure relationship with Mael, or a relationship built on lies. A big theme of the game if you ask me. Though these options don't actually mean anything. It doesn't affect the story, literally. But I still like it. After stating that we are both hypocrites, we ended off with let's write on the monolith, Papa, go home. Which actually happens if you look at the monolith after. Cool detail. But I still can't forgive Verso for letting Gustav die like that. That's just fucked. But his reasoning makes sense. Being that if he was alive, then she wouldn't have helped him banish her mother. But still, fuck you, Verso, for killing our goat. Our father is a pretty complex character, and we'll see some cool things if you do some side content. Renoir likes to paint metaphors of metaphors and overcomplicate his paintings with an overwhelming message, almost like a puzzle. The accents are what Renoir painted in order to feel the presence of his children again. They're all based on his children. In my opinion, Renoir is the only one that isn't a hypocrite, He set out to do what he must do, erase the painting, so that Aline and Alicia won't kill themselves in the painting. While mass genocide of the people in the painting is cruel, it's technically not real, but this is where the slippery slope comes in. It's a painting full of sentient beings. We see that they are just as human as the rest of the real world. They have to deal with emotions honestly more than people in the real world do. The way I see it is Renoir or Mael could be the villain of the story, depending on your opinion on the grief, which I love that I'm questioning that. Elaine, she's unable to move on from her grief to only caring about her dead son and shunning everyone else out of her life. She blames Mael for Verso's death, which is why she gave Painted Alicia the burns and she throat. That's fucked up. And only painted the proud alpha male version of Renoir, which made him seem like such a dickhead compared to the real Renoir. Painted Verso as a liar and a manipulator, which implies he was also a shitty person in real life. Even after being forced out of the painting, she doesn't learn her lesson and comes back to help Mael. Which I'm kinda glad she's not the final villain because she's not as deep and complex as Renoir is. Clea. We don't get much info on Clea. She has the least amount of lore surrounding her. We know that she's the gifted older child that is the prodigy, and is probably the most powerful painter if she actually went into the painting more. We learned of her relationship with Francois, and it's no wonder they both got along. They're both stone cold, blunt, and grumpy people. We know she does care for her mother in her own way, which is why she aided Renoir in making some Nevrons in order to weaken Aline. I think we'll get more insight on her in the future DLC, possibly dealing with her writer's dilemma. Later on, there's an optional dungeon of a painted version of what looks like to be the painted version of the destroyed manor. There, we get a chance to fight Painted Clea, who Clea painted over in order to control the Nevrons. This shows that Clea is just too busy carrying the family on her back, just like the Axon she is based off of in Old Lumiere, the giant fucking Nevron that's just in the middle of Old Lumiere with a slash through it. This boss fight was tough, but very fun. If you don't get perfect parries the whole time, Clea will heal a shit ton back every single turn, and this can stack for the other turns as well, to the point where she's healing 3 times before you get to hit her again. We finished the boss fight and Clea regains consciousness of not being a Nevron making slave and chose to end her own life.
There's one more character I want to talk about, but I'm not going to talk about him here to make this video just a little bit shorter. So check out my Simon short right here. Next, let's talk about the music of Act 3. Letter to Mael. This is a calm song with an ease of the breeze of the vocalist's soft sounds, while a curious piano takes the stage that sounds like a calling to Verso in this letter from Alicia. You can hear the flames crinkling. A haunting track that you first hear when you see the flashback of Verso burning to death, holding out his hand. It has a sense of spirit that Verso left in this track after he passed. The lyrics translate to "Let me go up in smoke." Not sure if this is just a parallel to how Verso feels now in the painted world, or if this is how his real counterpart felt when he died. Our Painted Hatred. A flip of the coin of the opposite song, this track is explosive, and it really ramps up with no warning, along with this fucking phenomenal violin piece in the back. Dude, the violin always steals the show in these tracks. Like, literally, it's so good. With the orchestra's horns and the brass building up the vocals little by little, this theme is awesome. Renoir's actual OST. This track may be very slow. It has a very slow build up, but the pauses and the piano clusters really give this track a unique vibe to the rest of the OST. And then the crescendo at the very end into almost nothing, just desperate cries of his wife while he's chained up to the monolith, into a diminishing, chill-dropping chromatic cluster that literally made me shit my pants every time I heard it. This is one of the best battle tracks in the game, and you rarely ever hear it. I don't know how else to describe these instruments other than literally wicked, many creepy instruments that sound very tribal, like a sacrifice is about to happen. Reminds me of a track from The Witcher 3 with the witches and shit. I swear at one point I just start hearing banshees screaming at me. This track wastes no time starting into a bang, with the drums, piano, and vocals playing at the same level, with a breakdown of vocals being cut up into a massive climactic build, really stretching the highs of Alice's impeccable voice. The climactic build-up really feels like a war zone, with multiple crossfires happen at the same time. The final boss theme is incredible, an augmentation of all of the versions of the same song, with both the singer from the Paintress boss fight and the curator's fight collaborating in this peak duet. And holy shit, every instrument gets their own time to shine. This is a beefy track with really no dull moments. The switch ups are so refreshing, well deserving of the final boss theme. The chilling vocals to end off one of the most epic final boss themes I have ever heard.
A very emotional track that gets very overlooked with the next track, but I like to see these two as songs that must be next to each other for the context.
To take the path where hope subsides. In this battle of hearts, let's search for grace. Find a way to mend what's been misplaced. In this world we both reside.
The song that plays as you sit there and contemplate which choice to make. This track I heard for a long time because I just sat there and stared at the screen for at least 10 minutes contemplating. Because I cannot believe that the game gave me this choice. What a fucking masterpiece. It's also the final battle song. We must collide and choose which path we must take and decide the fate of the canvas. The battle between siblings. I really like the withering guitar that eventually turns into the main theme of Alicia's suffering. The vocals end us off with a very emotional violin piece. This track just gives chills down my spine every time I hear it. The track also seems to be very biased towards Verso's ending, basically telling you that Verso's ending is the canon ending. And you hear this in Lorien's monologue throughout the track, where he talks about Mael being stuck. And it really is time to say goodbye.
Two souls and fight in a desperate fight. Our draft collide.
Notre voyage s'arrête, nos chemins divergent. Alors que l'un s'éteint, écoute le chant lointain. Laisse derrière nous ce cœur immortel. Dans ce monde peint, l'amour est artificiel. Dans ces mondes reculés, nos histoires se rejoignent, dérivant vers des toiles incertaines. Dans nos cœurs, un lien éternel brille. Nos dessins se confrontent. Pour nos âmes enlacées, pour nos cœurs déchirés.
The final track, the one that hits you in the gut when you realize it's all about finally getting over the grief of this family member. He was just gone too early. And it hits you even harder is that this track does not feature a piano at all, since Verso is finally laid to rest. As we close out with our not imaginary friends waving us on a farewell, a sayonara on the life we will live that our brother gave us a chance to thrive in twice. Rest in peace.
Ne finit dans l'étreinte du destin. Les liens restent éternels dans le dessin. Soidale moidane gosinane kala soika tovla.
Well, we are finally done talking about how amazing this game is. A studio that has never made a game before, a musician that has never made a soundtrack before, a writer that's never published anything before, made my personal favorite game of all time. Or is this recency bias? I finished the game around the end of June, and we're sitting at the end of August now, as of me writing the script. And I still think it's my personal favorite game that I've played. I never had this much fun diving deep into this masterpiece. The only few flaws in this game are minor, but my biggest gripe with the game is the fact that we don't get a lore or encyclopedia of the world and all of its characters, areas, story beats, and more. I think that would be a really good just update to add to the game. And that's also the reason why it took me so long to make this video. I had to keep up with a notebook, writing many notes as I played, which I do anyway, but I had to keep going back on recording for things that slipped my mind. Cause this game is just that in depth, with so much nuance and hidden meanings and everything. And I just love how the story isn't just completely told to you. You've gotta put it together. It's basically a puzzle, but for dummies, because it's not that hard to put together. But just enough to make your mind think. The story really puts a new perspective on art in the video game genre, without being too artistic, if you catch my drift. It doesn't sacrifice amazing gameplay to tell a story. Instead, it takes the JRPG turn-based formula and takes other things that can innovate the gameplay, such as taking the formula from other known RPGs like Superstar Saga and South Park Stick of Truth, but with Souls-like attacks and telegraphs that can make the combat less stale than those games. Making it to where every single party member is fun to play is not a mainstay in most RPGs. There's gonna be one or two characters you despise playing. But I'm here to say, every single character in this game is super fun to play. Not even just the gameplay, every single character is likable, even the ones that are pieces of shit. Everyone has a story, some justified more than others, just like real humans feel. No one here feels like an anime or cartoon supervillain. Everyone has their struggles, and own way of dealing with grief. There's absolutely no fluff or filler in the game, and it respects your time as a 25-year-old man in sales that hates his life. I don't get that much time to game as I used to, but most games take me months to complete. This one took me a couple of weeks, and I played in normal intervals. We need games like this again, to where I don't have to throw away my life to even get 40 hours in the game. This story made me cry in multiple ways. Tears of joy, tears of anger because I fucking suck, and tears of sadness, much like the three masses of Visages. All of my favorite pieces of fiction give me all three of these emotions at its absolute peak. The fact that this isn't a AAA game is outstanding. While indie games are reigning supreme, they usually don't have jaw-dropping graphics like this, which I am more of an artistic choice, but the visuals for this, damn, it made me feel like I was watching a movie at times, and it really just subverts your expectations when you're least expecting it. As of now, they actually declared Clair Obscur as the franchise name, so we might be getting a sequel in a whole nother world, kinda like the Final Fantasy games. I'm hoping we go more into the topics that were not explored but set up. If not, then in a DLC. This world building is incredible, and there's so many ways they could take the sequel or another project like this if they wanted to keep everything open. Alright, my final glaze of this game. This game is more than a masterpiece. It is a chef d'oeuvre. I think I said that right. I don't know actually. Okay, that's just masterpiece in French. You got me. But it's truly one of the pieces of art that will always stick with me till I fucking die. It was that special. A game that has transcended fiction. A game that can really only be a game for the art they wanted to convey, without any sacrifices, and only for $50. Absolute peak and cinema. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. You have no idea the hell and back I went through editing this long ass fucking video. But I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like and a comment. I'd love to create a discussion with you in the community. If you hated it, leave a dislike. Let me know what I could work on. I'm a new creator, so any feedback is appreciated. If you like videos like this that are definitely not as long, you can check out my other reviews. I swear I'm going to get into making more essay type videos, but I've been hitting a writer's block lately. But I got a couple reviews lined up in the works on a couple games that have piqued my interest lately that aren't JRPGs for once. Anyways, thanks for listening to me yap, and I'll catch you later. See ya.